Hi, everyone. Welcome to Steal This Part 1. If you are just joining us, you may be hearing our lovely background music, which is our pings letting us know that everyone is entering. We are seeing if it's possible to turn that off or disable it, but appreciate you all being here. And thank you again for coming. As you enter, please introduce yourself and add your role and your organization and why you chose this session in the chat. The chat, it should be at the top of your window here. So I'll put this in the chat as well. So please introduce yourself, add your your role and what organization you're at. So. All right, we're still just waiting for a couple more. I'll put this in the chat for us again. Welcome, Michelle. Welcome, Sarah. Welcome, Bridget. Welcome, Kathy. Welcome, Chris. Thank you all for putting in the chat where you're at. Introducing yourself. We're expecting a lot of folks on this chat. And at this point, I am going to kick us off while folks continue to, again, introduce yourself, what your role is, what your organization is, and why you chose this session. Let us know why you chose Steal This Part 1. My name is Ava Javid. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and my role is the Associate Director of Growth at Beyond100K. I want to welcome everyone to this space. And again, thank you for being here. In this session, we are going to be doing what's called Steal This Part 1. The name of this session is, and the topic for the session is developing and supporting STEM educators. So that's why we're also asking in the chat, why did you choose this session? Why are you interested in the topic of developing and supporting STEM educators? Please make sure that you're in the right space. And I'm going to quickly review our agenda on the next slide, please. You can see our speakers here. I'll be introducing them as we go. We'll do a quick welcome, which we're doing currently, and then you'll be hearing 3 presentations followed by a Q&A discussion and a closing. I will be prompting for the speakers a 3-minute and a 1-minute warning just for timing. So you will hear me verbally giving them that, and we agreed that that was the best way to do it. So thanks for everyone's patience with that. In today's sessions, presenters are going to share more about how their organizations are responding to challenges connected to the work of developing STEM teachers. And each of these sessions are opportunities for organizations to present their solutions, their approaches, and their lessons learned in response to the challenges to ensuring all students have access to learning experiences that support belonging in STEM. It is our hope that everyone in the room leaves with a new perspective, idea, or strategy that you can take back and apply to your own work. Presenters are going to have about 10 minutes to share their stealable or adaptable solution, and we'll have a 2 to 3 minute transition time between each of our session speakers. After each presenter goes, we will bring all presenters back for a moderated Q&A. And we encourage everyone to write down or keep track of questions along the way and drop them in the chat in between presenters. So again, we'll be keeping track of the questions and we'll bring those back during the Q&A. So please put them in the chat. We're going to kick things off with our first presenter, who is Jerry Hall, coming to us from the Intrepid Museum in New York City. So I'm going to mute and start our timer.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm excited to be here. I am Jerry Hall. I am actually on the museum in the museum right now, and I'm the director of lifelong learning. Next slide, please. So for those of you who are not familiar with where I'm located, I am at the Intrepid Museum located in New York City on the Hudson River. And our museum is actually centered on a former World War II aircraft carrier, which is a really unique cultural institution where we illuminate the intersection of history and innovation through the people who lived it and the technology that made extraordinary accomplishments possible. At the museum, we aim to be a center for history and innovation, as showcased not only by our exhibits, which include a Cold War submarine, numerous military and civilian aircraft, and a prototype space shuttle, but also through our numerous programs for youth, families, and audiences of all ages and abilities. Our programs promote innovation and strive to advance equity and inclusion. Next slide, please. So why am I here and what am I presenting about? I am presenting about a new program that we're starting. So I don't have any solutions yet. We're starting it, called the Inspiration Academy. And this grew out of the U.S. Department of Education's You Belong in STEM action call to action last year. So as we all know in this space, numerous studies exist on the representation of representation in the classroom to encourage a sense of belonging among students, particularly in STEM, but also other academic areas. And that's where we come in. We are an intersection. More work has surfaced recently about the same need for belonging among BIPOC teachers, and also how impactful a teacher can be towards creating a welcoming classroom, given the support. So our project centers on encouraging teacher retention in the early years of the profession, which is of paramount importance, especially for teachers of color who are radically underrepresented here in this space. While New York City, where I'm located, has a much more diverse teaching workforce than the national norm, with 42% of teachers identifying as non-white, more than 80% of the students are non-white. In 2019, New York State had 200 districts with no teachers who were not white, while the students across the state have become so much more diverse. So last year, we applied for an IMLS grant to support this work, and we were awarded funds for a 3-year project that will be conducted for teachers both in person at the museum and in the virtual space. Next slide, please. So, what are the goals of our Inspiration Academy? We are going to support early year teachers. We are going to support those teachers working not only in New York City, but also across New York State. We are very small, um, not as large as many of the other programs. We aim to recruit for the Summer Institute 25 teachers. And you can see on the slide some of the goals that we have and some of the people we are aiming to attract. But what are the ultimate goals of this program? Um, we want to create a more welcoming classroom that fosters a sense of belonging, of course. We want to really create a professional learning community among these teachers so that they can build relationships in their early years and feel supported. We want teachers to be excited and to sustain that joy in teaching. And we really want to create a space where teachers feel excited to explore interdisciplinary projects, working in both the STEM and the C3 framework. So really bringing history and STEM together. That again is where we meet at the Intrepid Museum. Next slide, please. So not only are all of our teacher professional development programs going to fall under in the next 3 years under this umbrella of the Inspiration Academy, what we're really pushing towards and really excited to do this summer is an Academy Summer Institute. And the Institute we aim to design a summer institute that creates this cohort of teachers who can support each other, while also introducing them to educational organizations that can support both them as professionals and provide programming for their students. So on the slide that you'll see here, these are the 5 different themes that we have for the 5-day institute. We've also structured it where teachers will receive a stipend for attending. We really feel like that is important in this space. As you all know, teachers want to feel valued, not only for their ideas and their expertise, but also for their time. And that often equates to money, right? So some of the guest speakers that we have coming for this institute are Charlie Bolden, who's a former NASA astronaut and administrator. We have visits planned to the Columbia University Maker Lab. We are going to do programming in concert with Hudson River Park Trust, which is also right here on the Hudson River. And we'll end with a panel of scientists representative of the diverse mix of people making waves in the STEM field. So we want to bring all these people together so that teachers feel inspired and can go away feeling confident to also use these resources, which many early career teachers don't understand that they have access to, especially here in New York City, where there is such a plethora of organizations wanting and willing to work with teachers. Participants throughout this course will learn how to analyze their existing lessons or those of their peers and develop new ones through a culturally responsive lens, incorporating diverse voices and resources. They'll explore the engineering design process, both literally by doing it, and also how the concept of iteration applies to pedagogy and student growth across the disciplines. They'll become confident in an inquiry approach to teaching, which is very much what we do here at the Intrepid Museum with all our programs. And like I said, they'll explore resources outside the museum to support their teaching goals. Next slide, please. So some of the challenges that we are already encountering here, we're about 6 months into the project and into the IMLS grant. We encountered a change in the PD format that actually came through a
3
teacher
minutes left.
contract. Thank you. So we encountered some challenges in that. We had anticipated having more in-person work, which we really feel is important because we are in this inspiring space. But a lot of the challenges revolve now around virtual PD. So we had to kind of switch our tack there. We are still offering the PD in person this summer. Recruitment, we're finding that it is very difficult to get a new program out there to the teachers who may need this. We've reached out to teachers colleges who might have a network of new teachers. We've reached out to departments at the Department of Education, but we really want to bolster our recruitment so we get a diverse pool of applicants. And then we want year-round outreach to these teachers, which we're also going to find a little challenging just with all the different teacher demands. As you know, how do they make time for this their own professional growth and to create that spark of joy? Next slide, please. Oh, my last slide is gone. Well, I will wrap up in saying that the aim of the Inspiration Academy is to ensure that new teachers will develop supportive networks of peers and have an increased confidence with the integration of historical and contemporary resources while amplifying marginalized voices within history and STEM. We want to create a joyful and rigorous classroom experience, words we're all very familiar with, that encourages a sense of belonging for themselves, their peers, and their students. And I would love it. I had a slide in here with a QR code that you could have clicked on to go to our application website. But if you want to chat with me afterwards or in the Q&A about how you can get the word out among your networks in New York City and New York State for this program, I would love to discuss. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Jerry, and you came right in under time. I did notice that the link to the Summer Institute is in the chat, so you all can kind of feel free to chat in there as well. And we will be moving into our next presentation in a moment here. I do want to call out again that, if you have questions, definitely pop them in the chat and we'll pull them into the Q&A portion as we get there. And I want to transition us. And again, thank you, Jerry, and thank you to the Intrepid Museum for sharing this really great program that you all are piloting. I am going to introduce Maya Garcia, who is going to be speaking on behalf of Beyond 100K. Maya, I will give you your 3-minute and 1-minute warning verbally as well. So whenever you're ready.
Well, thank you, Jerry. That was a wonderful presentation. And I just want to say good morning or good afternoon to whoever's sitting in this space. My name is Maya Morales Garcia. I am the Chief Program Officer at Beyond 100K. Really excited to talk to you about a tool that we're using with our network and kind of how that tool is conceptualized. I want to iterate or state that this tool or resource has a little bit of a story to it, and also encourage you to think about this as a living tool. So if you could go ahead and move forward, that'd be great. So Beyond 100K's vision is that all students have the high quality STEM knowledge, skills, and agency they need to tackle the most pressing national and global challenges of today and tomorrow. Next slide, please. So when we set forth to kind of understand how we were going to shift from being 100K in 10 and accomplishing a really great goal of recruiting and preparing 108,000 STEM teachers. When we set our new moonshot, or we're thinking about that, in the context of our vision, we knew we needed to anchor our conversation by listening to young folks. And so we launched a project called the Uncommission, where we talked to over 600 students from around the country. And I say students in quotes, I'm going to say young people, who shared their stories with us. And you can see Denise's story up on the screen. This is one of hundreds of stories we collected. Next slide, please. And in these stories, we heard themes emerge. We heard 3 kind of central concepts emerge. One, that young people were fired up and excited about leveraging STEM to support or to kind of address things in their local setting, challenges, or do good in the world really. The other thing we heard stories of non-belonging in STEM. So you can see on this chart, some of the words we heard that iterated on belonging and non-belonging. And so we started to really think together, both with our network, with each other, and with students about what could Beyond 100K really focus on in our next moonshot goal. Next slide, please. Again, okay. And so over the next year, we engaged researchers across the field. We started to iterate on this definition of belonging. And what we landed on is that belonging is when individuals feel like they're respected, valued, and accepted by others, agency, can show up without betraying their authentic self, know they can succeed in their STEM pursuits and are supported to do so by those that care about them, and feel a connection to STEM and see a purpose for themselves in it. And when we think about this, if we work with pre-service educators or teachers in the field, some of these are true about them as well as about educators in the field, as well as students in STEM. Click the next slide, please. What we learned from our stories and listening to young people is that in an ecosystem of belonging, time and time again, when students were telling us their stories, we heard that teachers played the most significant role in whether or not students felt a sense of belonging in a STEM classroom. Next slide, please. And so as we emerged, or as we iterated on kind of what Beyond 100K would focus on, what our network would be activating against, we knew that we couldn't work on the STEM teacher shortage without also attending to this sense of belonging in STEM. And so as this slide reads, the data shows that we have to continue to address the STEM teacher shortage, preparing more excellent STEM teachers and curbing the attrition rate. But we heard a clear call to action from students, from youth in our country, saying belonging is critical, particularly for our Black, Latinx, and Native American students in STEM. And if we address the STEM teacher shortage without addressing belonging, we will have failed these students. Next slide, please. So this helped us create our goal You can see on this slide, Beyond 100K is working with partners, some of which are in the chat and online today, but we're really working to prepare and retain 150,000 STEM teachers who cultivate STEM classrooms of belonging. And we hope to also work with our network to address the STEM teacher shortage and end it entirely by 2043. Next slide, please. To do that, we have an approach that we leveraged in the first 10 years of our organization, where we're leaning into this work with a network. These problems or challenges are too complex for any one organization to solve alone. We need a network and a community to do this work. Often this work is local in nature, and so that becomes even more important. The second thing we know as part of our recipe for success is that we need something to anchor our work. Often when you do this work, sometimes we're working on surface level issues, or we might have many people spread across challenges. And so we're not concentrating our effort. We know it's important to guide the work of our network and anchor the work of our network, both by listening to network partners and what they're seeing in the field, but also to have a little bit of a roadmap for that work. And that's what we want to focus on today. And lastly, Beyond 100K creates a container to bring the networks together or the partners together to do the work across all of these challenges. Next slide, please. Next slide. And so what we did, you saw an image of a boat and people bailing out the boat. What we want to do is we wanted to learn how we could stop bailing out the boat and really think about how we focus on the concrete challenges that are impacting the field. And so this question on the slide is what we took to the community. We talked to over 1,000 participants or educators from across the country. Next slide, please, to learn what their responses would be to this question. So you see 960 individuals had documented responses. We had 37% of those participating and kind of telling us what challenges they're surfaced in the field, identifying as Black, Latinx, or Native American, compared to 17% of the population nationally. But really what we did was we really tried to listen and learn from people about what challenges they were confronted with. Next slide, please. And then we took those challenges and said, if challenge A is addressed, does challenge B get easier to tackle? So we were trying to compare and contrast and look at like how people were sensing the impact across both challenges to kind of figure out what is like the one, to identify the ones that were had a little bit more impact. Next
3
slide,
minutes
please.
left.
Next slide, please. And what emerged is this lovely map. And what we learned is that all of these challenges are interconnected. So you see this nice little ecosystem type diagram. I'm a science teacher by trade. This should look like, or might look like a food web to many of you who have that background. You see that things are connected. And we noticed that over 100 challenges emerged over and over again, termed in different ways, but when we distilled them down, they were things that we hear often enough. And so we were able to kind of codify these challenges in a document. Next slide. We also noticed that everything is connected, but it's not connected equally. And click again, and it's not connected randomly. So when you see those lines across that wonderful food web of a diagram, you'll notice that 2 points are connected to another point. It might be new teacher preparation connected to teacher work environment or things like that. Next slide, please. So what emerged at these nodes are 8 themes. We were able to organize things into 8 themes. You see them depicted on this slide. Next slide, please. And what we're focusing on with our network, where we're concentrating our energy in that model, that 3-phase recipe model that I spoke to before, is we feel like by concentrating our collective effort on specific challenges, we know from our experience as a network that when we do work together to kind of tackle these and tease these apart, it creates ripple effects on those that are connected to them, almost like a domino effect. And that's really what we're trying to do as we focus our effort as a community. You see our 5 focus keystones, which represent those challenges that people, our community felt like if we tackle these and we really attend to them, then we will catalyze that domino effect in the field. Next slide, please.
1 minute left, Maya.
Yes, we know some answers will change, and as we learn more, and they should change as maps do and evolve, as we learn more and we continue to intentionally center the voices of Black, Latinx, and Native American perspectives, that this map will continue to evolve and change. Next slide. And because to be useful, it has to be a living map, we're encouraging you to go ahead and snap that QR code and open it up and see how you might also leverage this map as a tool for your use in your own setting. We think of it as a resource, a dialogue opener, and we hope that you find as much use in it as we hope to find with our own network. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maya, and thank you for sharing that. We have some items in the chat. Again, if anything's coming up for you, definitely share that in the chat so that we can bring it to the Q&A at the end of our session here. And I'm going to now introduce our final speaker, who is Kimberly Hughes, who's going to speak to us coming from Texas.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. Great. Thank you so much. Enjoy the opportunity to share something that we do in UTeach. So what I'm going to share with you today is a strategy that any preparation program could implement to recruit more undergraduate students into STEM teaching. You can go to the next slide, please. So I'm the director of the UTeach Institute at the University of Texas at Austin, and we support a network of colleges and universities all working on the preparation of middle and high school STEM teachers by implementing the UTeach program. UTeach is a university-based program that focuses on the preparation of middle and high school STEM teachers. And it does so by removing barriers to participation and expanding degree options for STEM majors. It provides preparation that's tailored to future STEM teachers. So the program is customized for middle and high school STEM teaching, and it provides comprehensive research-based, clinically intensive preparation to teach. One of the keys to the program is that we offer undergraduate students the opportunity to earn a teaching credential alongside their STEM degree. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about one of the ways that we do that. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the role of the Institute is to support this network of colleges and universities implementing UTeach programs. UTeach has been recruiting and preparing STEM teachers at UT Austin for more than 25 years, and the network of our partners has been growing for the last 15 years. So we have university partners that have been implementing the program since 2008, and then we've got a collection of partners that are establishing new programs right now. Next slide. So as Maya mentioned in her talk, we are all aware of the fact that we are preparing fewer and fewer STEM teachers. We still have a shortage. We need to prepare more. We need to retain those that we prepare. We're preparing half the teachers we prepared a decade ago. Next slide. But at the same time, more and more students are choosing STEM, choosing to major in STEM degrees. So there is this growing pool of students out there in the higher education system that can be recruited into teaching. That number is just increasing. Next slide. And there is a misconception out there that maybe these students are not interested in teaching. We hear this all the time, but we know from the research here, this is data from an American Physical Society survey of more than 4,000 undergraduate STEM majors in the areas of physics, computer science, math, and chemistry. We know that somewhere between 13% and 33% of students majoring in these disciplines are at least somewhat, quite a bit, or even very interested in teaching. Next slide. So the question is, why aren't more of these students choosing teaching then? How do we convert what is a curiosity and interest in exploring teaching into participation into teacher preparation pathways? Next slide. So what I want to share with you and what I want you to steal is something that is a foundational component of the UTeach program, which are a couple of introductory one-credit courses that are designed to allow STEM majors to explore teaching as a possible career. So there are 2 of these courses that are part of the UTeach course sequence. One called Step 1, Inquiry Approaches to Teaching, recruits students to do an elementary, have an elementary teaching experience, and the other is a middle school experience. I'm going to show you a 2-minute video, which it's a little bit dated, this video, but it provides will give you a good idea of kind of how the course is designed and what the student experience is. So if you could go ahead and click on that video.
What I see Step 1 as is having the students get that experience of how much fun it is to actually watch kids learn and have that experience happen the first part.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that video really kind of does a good job, I think, of emphasizing the priorities for this introductory course for students is really to give them an opportunity to simply dip their toe into teaching, try it out, and see if it's something that they enjoy. You can go to the next slide. So I'll tell you a little bit about how this course is designed. As I mentioned, it's a 1-credit course. All STEM majors at the university are invited to participate in the course. It is taught by UTeach master teachers who are clinical faculty at the university, and they teach some courses, and then they support student teaching and other field experiences for UTeach students. Students go out and they do 2 observations in an upper elementary classroom. You heard those students say that they're freshmen. This course can be taken as early as a student's freshman year. And then they learn a little bit about inquiry-based teaching. And they go out and they teach 3 lessons in pairs. We use FOSS kits, so we use research-based hands-on science activities from kits. Students learn about inquiry-based teaching using a 5E approach to lesson design. They are supported in designing inquiry-based lessons around these FOSS kits, and then they practice those lessons in class. Once the master teacher feels they're ready, they are sent out to an upper elementary classroom to implement those lessons. They get feedback from a classroom teacher. They get feedback from the UTeach master teacher. They reflect on their experience, and then they repeat that process 2 more times. And really, that's the design of the course. You can go on to the next slide. So does it work? So we survey all UTeach students across our national network when they enter that Step 1 course, that very first course. We ask them about their interest in teaching and why they took the course and some other information. And then we survey all of the UTeach graduates at the end of the program. So we know from this survey data that 40% of UTeach graduates nationwide were unsure they would teach when they took that exploratory introductory course. So we know that we are capturing a group of students and helping them enter teaching who might not have considered teaching otherwise. They came to the university in love with their STEM discipline and heading off in that direction, but not necessarily thinking about teaching. So some considerations include that these introductory opportunities to explore teaching should be low stakes in nature. This is just a 1 credit course. It's easy for students to add it to their schedule. It should be convenient, and it should be designed as a really enjoyable experience for students.
3 minutes left.
Thanks so much. We want to provide an enjoyable introduction to teaching for students, so that they can make the decision after these first 2 introductory courses about whether or not teaching might be for them. If it is, then we can present them with a degree plan that shows them how they can add the UTeach course sequence and teaching credential to their BA or their BS in their STEM discipline, and doing it in a way that requires no additional time or money for the student. And finally, just introductory courses are just one of a number of recruitment approaches and activities that we implement, but I do think that they are foundational and critical to exposing more and more students to teaching as a potential career. So next slide. So if you are interested, I did make available, and I'll put it in the chat here, an example, step 1 inquiry approaches to teaching overview and syllabus. It's something that I think any program could implement. I know this presentation will be made available with materials after the fact. You can learn more about the work that we do to prepare more middle and high school STEM teachers at our website, or reach out. Happy to connect. I think I came under time.
Yeah, I was giving you a little extra because we had a little bit of time, but thank you. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you, Kimberly, from the UTeach Institute, for sharing. And thank you to Maya and Jerry as well for sharing your Steal This items. We're going to move into our Q&A discussion at this point. I will be playing the role of moderator to be respectful of everyone's time. We have about 12 to 15 minutes available for Q&A, and that means we have time for about, I would say, 4 questions. Our room monitors, Paula and Rachel, have been tracking your questions in the chat to see if there's any common themes. I'm going to ask our moderator to pin the session presenters and encourage folks to add your questions to the chat if you haven't already. And we will get started with questions. I'm going to pull up the questions here. So I'm going to begin with questions that came in for Jerry. One question that came in for Jerry's presentation was, is the program that you're running only for New York teachers? You know, I think it's kind of a question about, like, is it available to others, but also, like, how would it be adaptable in other scenarios, do you think?
Sure. Yeah. So the program itself is open to teachers who teach in New York State. You do not necessarily have to live in New York, but I know that there are a lot of teachers perhaps in Connecticut or New Jersey, the tri-state area, that teach in New York State schools. And it is open not to just public schools, it's anybody, right? So parochial school, you know, anything like that can apply. And then, you know, how do I think this is scalable? We're starting small just because of capacity and our area, and we really wanted to create a small cohort. But what we would like to see is other, you know, cultural institutions or other providers of professional development develop programs that encourage this sort of interdisciplinary work, right, between history and STEM, because here at the museum, we really find that those 2 subject areas complement one another and give students and teachers sort of a holistic way of looking at their education. And we really want people to target, as many of you are already doing, new teachers, teachers who might not feel supported in their work, teachers of color. So we want this to be a scalable project. We are just starting very small.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I'm going to move into some questions that arose about UTeach. One person asked for UTeach, is the teaching credential offered to medical laboratory science majors at UT Austin as well. I think maybe just a larger question for Kimberly about who maybe is encouraged to take these seminar courses that you all offer.
We target all undergraduate STEM majors, but the program is open to any major, in fact, at UT. If you are any major who wants to teach STEM we will help them add the credential to their degree. But the program's kind of designed to really go after STEM majors in any STEM discipline.
And I think a related question was about, can early education teachers be supported to transition into STEM? And it sounds like what you're saying is that anybody who is at UTeach who is interested in teaching STEM in K through 12 would be supported.
As long as they're willing to take the required content in order to be certified as a middle or high school STEM teacher, yes.
Yeah, because the certification requires that you have a certain amount of STEM courses that you've taken.
Content. Yeah, there are content requirements. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm looking for more questions in the chat. Oh, here's a good one. One person is asking in the chat, as someone who isn't directly a STEM educator but works with underrepresented STEM students, how do we create that sense of belonging and foster engagement in STEM for these students, especially since their program is new to their college? They have a similar challenge in recruiting, as Jerry had mentioned in her response. So how do you foster or create a sense of belonging and foster engagement for STEM?
Who is that question for?
It's for all of us.
Okay.
But Jerry, do you want to take like a
Sure.
first pass
So
because of your program design?
yeah, so we try to tell stories of those people who are working in the STEM field who might not, who might come from different backgrounds than the majority of people you see, right? So that is the reason that we are reaching out to young professionals in the STEM field, particularly people who identify as BIPOC, and engaging and telling those stories through the museum lens. We have a couple different people who we feature. If they are astronauts, if they are, biologists who are working here on the Hudson River, engaging in those areas, we want to, through our program, expose teachers to those people who, as you know, many people in the education field are very generous with their time and want to help new teachers so they can foster a sense of belonging and an excitement for STEM in their students and create that pipeline of excitement. So that's really what we do through many of our programs, not just this program, but our youth programs that are very robust here at the museum.
I just want to say that I think we have a number of people on this, including UTeach and Jerry, who have like a wealth of resources that talk about different tactics and supports, like building the cohorts, right, Jerry? Like that is like an essential, we know, to ensuring that people retain in the field, building those cohorts, attaching mentorship opportunities. But just having those in place is not always enough. We also need representative mentors in the field. So when we think about belonging for our Latinx, Native, and African American youth, we want to make sure we have representative educators, people who share identity, kind of supporting educators in the teaching role or in the teaching field as well. And so when we think about equity, representation, and belonging, that's not the whole story, but it can be part of the story. And then we have organizations like Tech Bridge Girls. I saw Trisha Berry dropped AAUW in the chat, and others that are doing work. You can even navigate to STEM teaching tools to find some really great resources about how we develop rightful presence for students in the classroom, in STEM classrooms, or how we think about developing culturally responsive and relevant curriculum and working in that way. So I know we have a ton of resources, but I think it's those elements of belonging, both at the institution, the systemic, even when we think about tackling mindset that we need to attend to as a collective. And I would encourage people to drop resources that they found useful in the chat to support that, because I know we have a abundance and still need to create more out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I see some folks sharing some resources in the chat as well. If we have time at the end, I would love to keep going with this question, because I'm seeing now, I think it's coming from the perspective of like maybe a teacher working with students. I'm going to shift to some other questions. And then again, if we have time, I think we can go back to that topic. I see a few questions about UTeach. So Jason asked, for UTeach, do you have data on reasons why a UTeach participant elected not to pursue the teaching profession?
Oh, I just finished typing a response to Jason, but I'll just verbalize it. So the way that the program is designed is to cast this wide net and recruit lots of students to try it out. So the expectation is then that many students will not continue. We call that a feature instead of a bug in the program, because our intention is for students to identify for themselves whether or not teaching will be a good fit for them early rather than late in their college career. So many of the students have that exploratory experience and they don't go on, and that's just fine with us. We consider it really positive that these students, regardless of their chosen career, will have had this amazing teaching experience that will make them advocates for education and, in the future, regardless of what they end up doing with their career.
Thanks, Kimberly. One follow-up question that I think is related, maybe. When you were initially starting, what were the initial challenges when UTeach kind of was getting off the ground?
Well, UTeach started 26 years ago now at UT Austin, so it was a long time ago. I'll say, for 26 years, we've been honing the program, and then with our national network of partners, further refining it by bringing in all this expertise and experience in. But I'm not going to, sugarcoat the fact that it is still really challenging to recruit students to teaching. And that's why the program was created 26 years ago, and it's still the case. It's hard to, it's always been a shortage area. Recruitment is challenging, and it's something that we have to have top of mind, and we have to be like explicitly working on and refining our approach to that all the time. It's just recruitment it's not something that you do when you start a program and then it kind of takes care of itself. It's something that we do every single semester throughout the life of the program.
And then a related question, once folks are engaged in UTeach, is there ongoing support that UTeach provides for new teachers, or is that something that you all are working on?
We do actually. The goal with UTeach was to add a teacher credential for STEM majors without adding cost or time. So it's a very streamlined program. That also means that, we are getting high quality first year teachers out into classrooms. So that doesn't mean that they are, don't continue to need support. So we actually do provide induction support to our graduates in those early years of teaching, which is critical to, as Maya mentioned earlier, we have to focus as much on retention as we are on production. And that is critical. And then we have a whole bunch of opportunities for ongoing professional development for the more than 8,000 UTeach alumni that are out there in the country. So we are as focused on preparing fostering teacher leaders, providing professional development, retaining them in the field as we are in getting them prepared initially.
Thanks. Thank you for sharing. We do have a little bit more time. If there are any further questions for the Q&A, I'm looking in my notes to see if there are any other questions coming in, but I do see there's some resources in the chat that you can definitely take advantage of.
I would love to just shout out UTeach and Intrepid for the work that they're both doing. This idea of inspiring educators, Jerry, like that is launched specifically from the You Belong in STEM initiative. It was inspired by it. Um,
Yep.
and like the challenges that you're grappling with are so salient. I had a question, so I'm going to take some prerogative if I can about the program. And both you and Kimberly talked a little bit about supporting new teachers in the field, and like I want to know what's the focus, and what challenges you see new educators encountering that might be different from even pre-COVID that you're starting to grapple with.
So I'll speak a little bit first. I think that one of the reasons we really love to work with new teachers is because they're so open to new ideas. They're also dealing with a lot of the challenges, especially here in New York City, with all the different mandates that they have. And so we want to, in the summertime, right, engage these new teachers to sort of reinvigorate their teaching practice as they go into the new school year. The Inspiration Academy will also offer, I think, 5 different virtual sessions over the course of the school year in the after school hours that teachers will be paid for, because that also is so important to show value in what they're doing, and that we value them and we value their time and their expertise as educators. I haven't been in the classroom for over 20 years. I've been here at the Intrepid for 15. So, they know what they're dealing with in their classroom environments, and we want to support them as much as we can, and also create that supportive network of just, in this year, it's 25 teachers, but make sure that they, as everybody has pointed out here, new retention is so very important in the STEM fields, right? And we want to be a place where they can come and feel comfortable and feel excited to learn new things in different ways.
Yeah, I guess I would just add that increasingly, because there is just this growing shortage of math and science teachers, new teachers who are coming in are finding themselves teaching much larger classes because they can't find enough math teachers to staff up all the math courses, for example. And, increasingly, as a result, uncertified and unprepared teachers are being hired. So then our UTeach grads are reporting that they're coming in as brand new teachers and then being asked to mentor and support completely uncertified and unprepared teachers. So the pressures on new teachers, it's hard enough to be a new teacher and navigate that. That support's really critical. But then the pressures on those new teachers are just increasing because of the kind of snowball effect of the post-COVID, issues around retaining teachers and just staffing up.
Yeah, and I think I would actually call out something that ties this whole session together that someone mentioned in the chat. Nicole mentioned in the chat that in her region, there's a number of teacher preparation programs closing down. I've heard that across many regions and states, that it's something that's on people's minds, is how do we keep programs running that are supporting teachers getting into the classroom. And, the session is called Developing and Supporting STEM Educators. And I think we're seeing really that, there is this pipeline, and there's, how do we get folks into the classroom? How do we develop them and get them to want to be and see, STEM teaching as a viable profession? And then what Jerry was mentioning as well, once they're in there, how do we support them? What Kimberly is mentioning, once they're in there, what are they being asked to do, and how do we ensure that they're prepared for that? There's really multiple layers, and I think in this session, we are hearing a lot of different approaches for how to support teachers in kind of all levels of that pipeline. We have a few minutes left, so I want to, take this time for any final thoughts that Kimberly or Jerry or Maya might want to share before we close up.
I would just like to say, for any of you in the New York region who have New teachers, know of new teachers. I would love to get the word out about our program. The application deadline is June 1st. We've extended it. And we really want to get, a good swath of New York State teachers to come to the museum. They'll be supported. We'll provide a delicious lunch for them and a stipend as well, and fun field trips.
And I'll just say that we're excited to talk about the map with anyone and everyone, and we believe it's a useful tool to help anchor conversations like the ones we're having today across all of the different issues. And so we hope you see Beyond 100K as a resource, as well as, download the map, take a look at it, and also come back and give us your feedback about it. We invite that because, as I said in my presentation, it's a living document. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all three of our presenters, Maya, Jerry, and Kimberly. And I noticed a lot of fruitful connections that were forming in the chat. So hopefully you all can check out the chat. I know there's a lot happening in there, so you might have to scroll a little bit. And we hope that everyone who was joining us here can take some solutions or ideas back to your respective organizations. I'm going to hand it over to Mecca, who's going to tell us about our next steps. And we'll be dropping a survey in either this chat or at the end of the day. Check your emails and give us some feedback on these sessions. Mecca, take it away.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'm Mecca from the Department of Ed. Want to extend such a warm felt and thank you to our partners at Beyond 100K for facilitating and also for introducing us to this whole concept of Still the Sessions, where we can hear directly from practitioners about the wonderful work that they are leading. So thank you, Beyond 100K, for your leadership and again, for your facilitation. I want to echo the thanks to all of our presenters for sharing the wonderful work that they are doing and providing us all with the opportunity to learn from you. Just want to highlight what's coming up for the rest of this afternoon. We do have another session that's starting in 15 minutes. And so you have an option of either deciding to join a session around students and ensuring that they have wonderful, joyful, relevant, rigorous STEM learning experiences, or a concurrent session is around partnerships, policy, and workforce development. If that's a topic that's of more interest to you, please feel free to join that session. You can find those links in your agenda, which was most recently emailed to you last night. And then we're going to have a panel featuring some of our out-of-school time partners and the work that they are leading. That's going to start at 3 Eastern, and then we will conclude for a very brief session at 3:25 with some closing remarks. Do want to say that we have recorded this session. We're going to run it through a clearance on our end, and then we plan to both share it publicly as well as provide a report out of the learning. So you can look forward to some more summary documents coming your way. That's our session. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.